welcome viewers. I'm Pia and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World, and here are the headlines. US senators have reached a bipartisan deal to resume federal funding, ending a record 40-day government shutdown. The stopgap agreement funds operations through January, resolving disputes over healthcare subsidies, food benefits and federal employee firings. BBC Director General Tim Davie and new CEO Deborah Turnes have resigned after facing backlash over a documentary that edited US President Donald Trump's speech, misrepresenting his words on the Capitol riots. Donald Trump has responded by slamming the BBC and labeling its journalists as corrupt. He's accused the broadcaster of bias, dishonesty, and claimed that the media tried to influence the 2020 US presidential elections. Ukrainian President Zelensky has called for stronger air defenses, increased equipment reserves, and faster, more precise military operations across affected regions. These comments follow intensified Russian strikes targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Israel has confirmed that Hamas has now returned the remains of Lieutenant Heather Golden, who was killed in 2014. Forensic experts have verified the identification, and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has stated the long-awaited return brings closure to the family. Starting today, China has suspended its 24% additional tariffs on US goods for 1 year and has eased duties on select farm imports, including soybeans. This follows last week's high-level talks to ease trade tensions. China has granted export control exemptions on Xperia semiconductors for civilian use, easing chip shortages for global car makers. The move follows recent US-China talks allowing short-term exports. Typhoon Pungwong lashes northern Philippines, killing at least 2. Meanwhile, over 1 million residents have been evacuated before the landfall in the Aurora province. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. So what's transpiring in Europe? We're now learning that Russia's defense ministry has reported the destruction of 71 Ukrainian UAVs across various regions and the Black Sea. 29 of these were downed over Bryansk region, with additional UAVs shot down in Kursk, Lipetsk, Smolensk and other areas as well. In the Black Sea, Russian forces neutralized 4 unmanned boats near Tuapse in the Krasnodar region as well. One explosion near the shore caused damage to a house, garage and a boat hangar, although no casualties have been reported. Meanwhile, Russian troops continue their offensive in the Kupiansk direction, conducting strikes on Ukrainian positions near the Olivino railway station. This is according to a commander of the 1486th Motorized Rifle Regiment. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Glenn Grant, former advisor to Ukrainian Defense Minister, joining us on the broadcast at the moment. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. We've seen an increased barrage of attacks having taken place on either side of the border. In the midst of all of this, there was an appeal earlier in the day from President Zelensky for stronger air defenses, boosting equipment reserves and ensuring faster, more precise operations. We've seen the Russians conduct pincer operations on the front lines. And on the other side, we're also seeing Ukraine sort of use calibrated means such as drones to strike deeper into Russian territory. In light of all of this, as President Zelensky has stated, what's really needed at the moment? And there's also the larger question regarding Pokrovsk, considering that it is a key logistics hub. So Ukraine has been defending it for more than 14 months at the moment, still holding strong. How crucial is it that other European nations also realize that they have to back Ukraine's defensive at this point if they want to keep the process of pushing back against the Russians still on?
Wow, lots of questions there. Let's hit the first one about Zelensky's demands, you could call them. I mean, the thing about any demands from Zelensky is that he's got to make them happen. In other words, he's actually got to choose people that know what they're just chosen a new air defense commander. That may have some action. I'm hoping to see him in 2 weeks' time when I'm in Kiev. And that may have some changes because he may do something differently from what is going on before. But if Zelensky wants the front line to be changed, then he's going to have to change the commanders, because the current commanders that are fighting on the front line only have the same ways of working as they had 2 years ago, and those ways of working are not very successful. Your comment about Petrovsk, well, it was a logistics hub when the battlefield was further forward. Now it's just another frontline city being devastated and destroyed by Russian attacks. And I think that the Europeans are going to have to understand that if they want to actually to help Ukraine, then they're going to have to cough up more money, and they're going to have to start themselves thinking about what Ukraine is doing. Because at the moment, it's a degree of success, but not enough to push Russia back.
Indeed, and speaking of, you of course stated that there's been a slight rejig on the Ukrainian side. We've also recently seen a rejig on the Russian side. In fact, one of Russia's deputy defense minister since last year, Andrei Bulyga, he's been now appointed as the deputy secretary of the Security Council, and meanwhile Colonel General Alexander Sanchik, who's been commanding Russia's southern military corps, he's now been appointed as deputy defense minister. How do you read into this particular rejig that has taken place on the Russian side?
Well, it means that the previous deputy defense minister was failing. If he's been put into the Security Council, going into the Security Council is a place for putting dead-end people that can't do something somewhere else, because it's not actually an action body, it's an advisory body, so it can be ignored by Putin. The southern commander has obviously has gained favor from whatever he's doing, and is now put into as a deputy minister. And I think that Putin understands that a lot of people that he's had working for him are failing. But Putin always chooses loyalty before efficiency. And so we have no idea if this man will perform or not. We have to wait and see.
Indeed, there were also some rumors, speculation going around that there's apparently been a fallout between Putin and Sergei Lavrov. Kremlin has, of course, come out and stated that there is no weight behind this, and their rapport is still in place. We've seen Lavrov having served as Russia's foreign minister for more than 2 decades now. Incidentally, all of this has come about in light of Lavrov not representing Russia at the G20 summit that's going to take place very soon in Johannesburg. I want to take your opinion on these rumors that have been going around. Is there any weight behind this, any truth to it?
Very hard to say. I mean, Lavrov is the ultimate in loyal person for Putin. And he's been, he's not known as the liar in chief for nothing. He just stands up and spouts Putin's lines, no matter, how much nonsense that he's actually saying. I looked at him the other day at a picture, and he actually looks a bit tired to me. And it's quite possible that there's not a falling out, that just Lavrov is sick, because it's that time of year when people get flu and get ill, and he's overweight and he's getting old. So don't be surprised if he has to step down, not because of any lack of loyalty or his work, but just because the man is reaching the end of his useful life, you might say.
All right, so requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking further updates.
Okay, thank you.
Indeed, we're now learning that Czech Foreign Minister Jan Lipavsky has urged European nations to increase investment in Ukraine's defense, stating that it is essential to halting Russia's offensive and ensuring the continent's security. Speaking from Santa Marta in Colombia, where he's attending the CELAC EU summit, Lipavsky has stated that if the EU wants to stop Russia, they have to pay for it. Listen in.
It's a political position, and we know that if we want to stop Russia, we have to pay for it. Security is not for free. freedom is not for free. And the biggest discussion in NATO, biggest discussion in the EU is how to pay the bill for the support to Ukraine and to stop Russia. Those things are connected. So clearly, new government will be less decisive on that, and also will not have a will to invest into security.
His remarks have come amid concern in Prague that the recent election victory of populist Andrej Babis could in fact signal a shift in Czech policy towards Ukraine. The outgoing government has been one of Kiev's strongest backers within the EU. Lipavsky has emphasized that sustained Western funding and arms support are crucial for Europe's stability and for Ukraine's ability to defend itself against ongoing Russian barrage of missiles and drones. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Glenn Grant. Interesting statement coming in. We've seen numerous such EU leaders put out statements like this over the last couple of years. These are clearly not enough because work needs to be done on the ground, and the pace of it has not really matched up to the ongoing assault that is taking place on the front lines. But what's interesting is that the incoming, as I mentioned, Czech government after the victory of Andrej Babis could sort of change this equation, could, much like Viktor Orban, also cause some hurdles for EU to pass crucial resolutions. What are your expectations, and how could this be tackled?
Well, my expectations at the moment are zero in the way that the EU is moving forward and the way that the EU members are moving forward. I mean, frankly, most of them are trying to, you might say, support and run this war on a peacetime mode. In other words, they're doing nothing unusual except trying to find a bit of money and give it to Ukraine. And this is not going to be sufficient. If they want to push Russia back and actually win this war, and save themselves, then they're going to have to start taking it more seriously, both individually and collectively, because it's not, what they're doing at the moment is not working. How does one move forward? Well, I'm sorry, but the leadership of the EU needs to change because Mrs. van der Leyen is not strong enough for what is going on at the moment. And you can see this by the fact that the EU just refuses point blank almost to tackle the Hungary problem, the Bulgaria, sorry, not Bulgaria, but the Belgium and the money problem. Everything is trying to be done in a nice fashion, and we're at war, and nice doesn't work in war. So people have got to actually to change gear if they actually want to do what the Czech foreign minister is talking about.
All right, so with that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. Meanwhile, viewers, we're shifting focus to more news coming in. We've now learned that Hungary has secured a financial shield agreement with the United States, designated to protect its economy and public finances. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban confirmed the deal after talks with US President Donald Trump at the White House. Now, as part of the agreement, Hungary will receive a one-year exemption from US sanctions on Russian oil and gas. Additionally, Hungary has committed to purchasing US liquefied natural gas worth $600 million. Orban has in fact emphasized that the agreement guarantees Hungary's financial stability, particularly in the event of external attacks on its economy or currency. This development, of course, comes amid economic stagnation in Hungary, though the Hungarian forint has shown strong performance this year. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Collins Chong-Yu-Keat, Foreign Affairs, Security and Strategy Analyst from University Malaya in Kuala Lumpur. Thank you for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Orban, of course, for quite a while has been talking about the geographic reality of Hungary, the fact that it is a landlocked country, it is reliant upon Russian energy, but at the same time we've seen certain other countries such as India being penalized for purchasing Russian oil as well, with steep tariffs being imposed. What do you make of Donald Trump's sort of relief granted to Orban? Where does this stem from? And is it also because of this 600 million LNG deal that has now been inked? Does that also play a crucial role in the exemption being granted?
Yes, definitely. It's a multifaceted, factor setting where we have seen, Orban has also given high praises for Trump before this. We have seen also how Orban is now in a very delicate situation. He needs, this capacity to jettison the country from this volatility in terms of, the funding, and in terms of also how it deals with inflation now. So it needs this economic shield, and of course also the U.S. Remains the ultimate partner in this. And but it's a surprising turn how, given Orban's stance with regards to Brussels and Washington. But we have seen this turn of events, and Hungary is in dire need of this. Inflation is hitting hard. The freeze in funding from EU, of course, also high borrowing costs, have all compelled Budapest to seek external guarantees, and of course also the returns to Washington in terms of this purchase of the resources. And this is also a reflection of how Trump sees Hungary in terms of gaining a strategic foothold in Central or Eastern Europe at the time where Russia is also pushing hard in this regard. And of course, at the same time, China is also trying to push hard in terms of its influence and presence in Hungary. So this is a calculated strategic move by Trump also. And of course, also at the same time, getting the economic benefits and entanglement and getting the support from the highest hierarchy in Hungary. So this is a mutually beneficial system for both countries. And I believe that this is a new signaling also to the rest of the EU partners and the rest of Central Europe that US will still remain committed as long as there's this a much fairer and just system in terms of trade and the respect that they should give to Washington, especially under President Trump. Yeah.
Indeed. Requesting you to stay on with us. You, of course, referred to the United States of America, and we're tracking further updates from there. We're learning that airlines have cancelled more than 2,800 flights and delayed over 10,200 across the United States since the federal government shutdown began 40 days ago. The chaos has marked the third straight day of government-mandated flight cuts and rising air traffic controller absences that have crippled operations at major airports nationwide. Delta Airlines was among the hardest hit, cancelling or delaying over half of its mainland flights. The prolonged shutdown has left thousands of federal employees unpaid, including those staffing the nation's air traffic control network, forcing airlines to slash schedules. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Collins Chong-Yu-Keat. What's also interesting is we've seen senators now reach some sort of a bipartisan deal to temporarily restore federal funding and reopen government operations. Of course, this remains to be passed. If it is, that would mean it would move to the US Congress. But how crucial do you see this particular move as being one step closer to breaking the deadlock, breaking the paralysis that we've seen?
Yes, definitely it's a very positive move. It gives a new kind of reassuring confidence. But this deadlock, this shutdown is not a Trump phenomenon. It is a Washington phenomenon. This President Trump is inheriting a system that is designed to have this kind of gridlock. And Trump has been consistent with his stance on reducing waste, inefficiencies, or bloated spending. So this shutdown is one of the few tools remaining to force Congress into a very serious debate on reforms that they have been avoiding for decades now. So Trump is pushing for these structural and systemic fixes rather than through cosmetic compromises or debates. They are going nowhere. So of course that always comes with short-term pain. But this also regards to the impact of the shutdown. We have seen how we have mentioned earlier of the cancellation of flights and all that. So, but the aviation system in the U.S. was cracking long before Trump returned to office. So this shutdown simply exposes this divide, this gap, a problem where no one has seriously fixed in the past. So I'll argue that this is a needed short-term wake-up call. And Trump has been consistent in the stance that that there have to be serious reforms and serious debates on the way forward in terms of managing the financial calculus, in terms of also looking very hard into the inefficiencies, the bloated spending and mispriorities of the spending of the Congress. So we've seen how, but things are looking brighter now, and of course inflation is in check. with the new wealth returning under Trump's policies, of course also with the reduction of oil gas prices in the US and the returning of jobs. So all this will compensate for the short-term pain that the US is feeling now. Yeah.
Indeed, and a quick follow-up, because we do know that the midterm elections are going to take place next year itself. There's been a considerable pushback from ordinary Americans against both the Democrats and the Republicans, as well as this shutdown continues. There were forecasts that if this stretches even further, it could lead to a recession. There are already price hikes being reported due to the tariff policy, so a double whammy would make lives even more difficult for the ordinary Americans. In that context, who's the biggest gainer from this particular deal? Is it the Democrats or the Trump administration?
Well, of course, there have been talks by the other side, by the Democrats, that they have been using the same attacking points that have been used by Republicans before this under the Biden administration. I know they have been pointing out that inflation is rising, prices of goods are rising, grocery prices and all that. But if you don't see a collapsing economy, it's a totally different economic environment as compared to the Biden administration. You see resilience, you see a newfound confidence in terms of the wealth, the money that's pouring back to the country under the policies by Trump in terms of the returns from tariff measures. So all this, don't happen under weak leadership. It happens under strong policies initiated by Trump. So of course there will be short-term pains, but once this is over, I foresee that the economy is going to revive in terms of the positive impact from the tariff measures. Also with the new purchase of China in terms of soybeans, in terms of resources, oil and gas assets, and this will eventually have these self-correct measures in the economic parity in the economic calculations. So for now, I think of course, with regards to recent elections in Democrat states, with of course the most well-known will be the election of Mamdani in New York. All this happened in Democrat states, and it is a foregone conclusion. Then we can see that of course is very much aligned to the sentiments of the people right now. But they are all in Democrat states, and we can't say that at the general level. So I will foresee that the momentum, the advantage still lies with the Republicans, with Trump, despite the short-term pain being felt now, and this has been used collectively by the Democrats to keep on harnessing on the notion that Trump is at fault for all this. But Trump is not at fault. The ones that should be faulted will be the systemic gap that has been in place for decades now. So Trump simply pointed it out on the need for the Congress and for both sides to look seriously into fixing this divide. Yeah.
Indeed. So requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some further updates, this time from East Asia. We're now learning that Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi warned that a Chinese maritime blockade of Taiwan could create a survival-threatening situation for Japan, raising alarm over regional security. Now, her remarks have highlighted Tokyo's growing concern about potential Chinese military actions near the island. Now, in response, China's Consul General in Osaka, Shui Jian, posted on social media that there would be no choice but to, and what I'm saying is what he stated, and I'm quoting, cut off that filthy head without a moment's hesitation, unquote. Now, these comments were a direct reference to Takaichi. Shui also shared an article discussing Japan's potential responses to a Chinese attack on Taiwan and added the question, are you ready? Though this post was later deleted. Japan quickly condemned the comments. Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara has called the remarks extremely inappropriate and has stated that the government has lodged a formal protest with Beijing, demanding a clear explanation. Kihara has noted that Shui made multiple inappropriate statements. Meanwhile, China's Foreign Ministry has responded and declined to comment on the social media post, branding it as a personal post. Meanwhile, it has urged Japan to take the matter seriously and investigate the online content, stop harmful commentary, and reconsider its policies on Taiwan. Beijing has also accused Japan of making wrongful and dangerous remarks, emphasizing historical responsibilities and regional stability. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Collins Chong-Yu Keat. Quite the inflammatory statements coming in from the Consul General of China in Osaka. These are rather strong remarks coming in. What do you make of them on the outset? The Chinese government is clearly trying to distance itself from its representative, but he's of course representing China on a formal note, a formal position in Japan. What could the implications be? Could this spiral out of control?
Well, China sees any Japan-Taiwan linkage as, crossing this threshold of the emotional historical appeal. It cuts far deeper, than U.S.-China dynamics. So whenever Japan speaks on Taiwan, Beijing's sensitivity, simply just multiplied because of this unresolved historical legacy of the Second World War. And of course, so China shifts this focus to history to delegitimize Japan's right to comment on Taiwan. And of course, also we have seen how China is firing this three-pronged narrative on Japan, from legal perspective, from historical perspective, and as a political warning also, all at once. And Beijing is telling Tokyo that stay out of these cross-strait relations, stay out of our internal affairs, or expect consequences in our bilateral ties. So this is also directed at the U.S. alliance system, and with the warning shot that don't ever use Taiwan as a level or as a leverage. So this appeals also, of course, to domestic nationalism, to regional audiences with lingering World War II memories. But all in all, we can say that Takaichi is being seen now as a truthful speaker by the Japanese domestic audience. And of course, he has been well received by the domestic audience in Taiwan. But Beijing sees Takaichi as increasingly being out of control in terms of how she frames Japan's relations with Taiwan. Although not reaching at the threshold of recognizing Taiwan's independence, still any moves or actions or words that are being seen as supporting the cause of peaceful and stable Taiwan would then be seen as infringing on the One China system, pretext to use this as a warning to Tokyo that this would jeopardize bilateral relations. So what we have seen now is exactly happening at this moment. And so I foresee that Takai will continue to maintain trade relations and.
All right, sir, there seems to be a network issue at your end. We've lost your connection over there. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank you for taking out time, of course, sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. Viewers, we're tracking some further updates coming in. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet has met with South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun at the Peace Palace in Phnom Penh to strengthen bilateral cooperation and address rising online scams targeting citizens of both countries. The meeting follows the death of a 22-year-old South Korean student in Cambodia, which sparked concerns over cyber fraud and safety. Hun Manet and Cho Hyun discussed measures to crack down on scam operations and protect citizens. Last month, Cambodian authorities deported 64 South Koreans allegedly involved in cyber scam operations, and both sides are now finalizing a memorandum of understanding to launch the Korea-Cambodia Joint Task Force. Well, viewers, that's all the time we have for. In the meantime, we're dipping into a quick short break. We'll be back very soon.